Congratulations on your baby.
Thank you. Thank you so
Are,
much.
are you sleeping or?
You know what? It's very, very interesting, and it's a real blessing, Megan. Like our first child, sleep was definitely few and far in between, and with our newest born son, it's just been a blessing. I mean, he's mom's got him in bed with her, and she's kind of got like a routine going with him right now. Eventually,
Mhm.
we'll get him sleeping on his own, but
Yeah.
she's kind of enjoying it. Postpartum depression was certainly, a big factor in our first pregnancy, and
Yeah.
we've been blessed with my wife Charlotte not really experiencing too much of that this time around. So she's really just enjoying the time that she's having with our newest born son, and wanting to kind of hold on to that, without kind of other things coming into play as long as she can. So it's been fun to watch, and kind of like more joyous than the first time around, to be honest.
I so relate to what you're saying because I love both my children, but my first, it was always like this sense of panic, like everything, like feeding, sleeping, leaving, everything. And then with my second, I did a very similar thing. I was like, you're staying in the bed with me. We're just going to let this be easy. Right.
Hmm.
And it was. So how old is he now?
He'll be, oh my goodness, it's the 8th today. He'll be 2 months the day after tomorrow.
Holy, that went fast. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, it went fast for me.
That's right. I know. It's been, honestly, it's been very fast for us as well, Megan, and just a huge joy to watch. But yeah, I'm really, really glad that we could chat today. By the way, like I was
Yeah.
super, super looking forward to this. So I'm glad that we could make this work today.
Well, thank you for having me. And I'm sorry that I was like looking at the time and in my calendar, I've had it at 10:30 for some reason for the last since we scheduled it. And I was like, he's sending me this link now. I bet you it's right now. So just my kids are on spring break right now, so they are home. They're usually pretty good, but I might have to pause it for a second.
I was just gonna say, you maybe hear my kids in the background.
Okay. I don't hear them, but I feel like it's also part of the reality that we live in right now, and we just have to embrace it. And it's like, okay, great, there's a child.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, my oldest is he's kind of crying in the background.
Aw, how old is he?
He'll be 2 on the 19th of July. Yeah,
That's yeah. You guys are gonna be very busy and blessed. Like I love those ages. Like it's so cool to see everything through their eyes. Like everything feels so new.
absolutely. Absolutely. So Megan, listen, I'm super, super excited to have you on the show today, the Shop Talk Quinny podcast. And a couple of reasons I'm really excited about this conversation. I want the audience to know a little bit about you, because I, just as a human, I'm a fan of who you are and what you
Mm.
do. And I want people to, in my world, my tribe, to kind of get to know you a little bit more. And then I also selfishly want to have you on here because I love talking minimalism and tiny homes and all that jazz. We're going to get into that today. And then
Yay.
we're also going to talk about business, marketing. I'm seeing some stuff from you lately, how you're kind of a pivoting and doing some new things in your business. Very, very
Mhm.
exciting. By the way, congratulations to you. And really just want to unpack that and see where your mind is, and where you're heading. And hopefully my biggest desire is that people watching today are going to get value out of it. So you with me?
I'm with you. I'm super excited. We have so much to talk about.
Awesome. All right. Well, so for the people listening, why don't you take a few minutes, just give everybody the 411, who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
So I'm Megan Moore. On the internet, you can also find me as Megan Lockhart. I'm the owner of Hello Life Academy, which is a marketing agency, but it has pivoted. So we're going to talk about that later. I'm in the Calgary area, so in Alberta, near the Rocky Mountains, and I have two kids, a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, which feels crazy to say. And I own a tiny home as well. So lots of really great things that have happened in my life in the last 18 months, all the way from, living in a 3,000 square foot home, having a very successful, financially successful business, to obviously what happened in the world, moving to the side of the mountains and pivoting the company to be less focused on live events to a digital space.
Wow, wow. And like every time you say the mountains, like I have such a beautiful picture in my mind of what that looks like. Could you just describe for a moment just the lap of luxury that you're living in right now? Because
Okay.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it is incredible. So the property in the tiny home is in Golden, British Columbia, and there's mountain views all around. So on the west side, there's the Purcell mountain range, and behind the tiny home, there's huge mountains with only trees on them. So it's just this incredible empty space that, nature, it's just, we're so blessed to be given that. And every time I sit there and look around, I'm so thankful. And it's especially at a time right now when I'm there and I go and I enjoy it, I'm sitting there thinking, this is what life is about, right? Like,
Mm.
this is the beauty that we've been gifted, that so many people pull into their, driveways and go into the home and don't leave. So, I'm not an artist, but if I could paint, I think I would be able to probably make a lot of money because it's so beautiful. And I just, it's quiet. It's quiet because it's meant to be quiet.
I love that. I love that. One of the things that I love the most when I watch HDTV, Tiny House Nation, seeing different people's stories. Heck, sometimes I want to move to New Zealand just because of what's going on down there. But like, the thing that always strikes me, and I think this will be valuable to the listeners, is like the why.
Mm-hmm.
Why downsize? Why move to a tiny home? You said you were in a 3,000 square foot home before
Mm-hmm.
that, very financially successful business,
Mm-hmm.
decided to size. What kind of stirred that in your heart, in your mind, and led to that action?
Yeah. So the reality and the truth was, I was filling this 3,000 square foot home with stuff um, that I thought I needed. I had like 4 crock pots. And then when the Instant Pot became popular, I had 2 of those. And it was just like filling this void of, I'm not spending enough time with my kids. And this wasn't sort of something that I had thought of, but I would look around and there was piles of things, bins of things. Like the storage would have Halloween decorations, Easter decorations, Valentine's decorations, like just storage, just stuff, all this stuff. And I started to think like, what what joy, I guess there's like that whole Marie Kondo thing, but that's not what sparked it. But I was looking around sitting going like, this stuff doesn't make me happy. I don't even want to use it. And when I look at it, I'm like, ooh, what's the next model? How can I, is there something newer out there? Which is kind of a conflict when it just doesn't make sense, right? Like, so you're making money and you're spending money on stuff and you're not really experiencing the joy that comes from everyday living. And I was working so many hours. I was working probably, like I would wake up at 6, which isn't very early, but it feels early. And I would work all the way till midnight, which a lot of entrepreneurs do. Um, but why? To fill the cupboards, to fill, the storage space, to buy another jacket, to buy another dress. So um it was right around the time when the COVID started. And I was like, look, I want to move to the mountains and live in a tiny home and bring the kids and just enjoy what we've been given on this earth and really see, like, can I do it? So I'm also a little bit of I think the entrepreneur in me loves challenges. Like, can I live on the side of a mountain? I don't know.
Mm. Absolutely, absolutely. That's beautiful, Megan. I mean, certainly I can relate to a lot of what you just said. Um, you know, Going back almost 5 years ago, like moved into our first home, 2,500 square feet. And I remember sitting down with my wife and we looked at our expenses, and our expenses actually exceeded our income. And I
Mhm.
was like, man, something's got to change. So like I'm on YouTube literally the next day, and I find this family. Like it's called the YouTube channel. It's called Our Journey to Bliss. They haven't made videos in a while, so if you go check them out, the videos are gonna be old, but the story is fantastic. And it's about a family of five that like downsized from their home and moved into a trailer. So I get this crazy idea thinking like maybe we can downsize because like we had some consumer debt and stuff like that too. And
Yeah.
I'm like so passionate about paying off debt now. Like, oh man, it's like one of my favorite topics. But like it was like, okay, what can we do? And anyway, next day I find this mobile home like 5 minutes from my house. And I know the agent because he sold one of my dad's rentals. And so I call up the agent. I'm like, man, did this just go up? And he's like, yeah, yeah. I'm like, can we check it out today? He's like, absolutely. So we go on down there, and decision was made, signed the deal, and like we were able to pay off. Like we had like credit card debt, we had two car loans, we had my school, and we were able to wipe all of that out and pay for the RV like in full. So
What?
absolutely no debt. We're able to start completely over from scratch. The business I run now comes up for sale the same year.
Wow.
And
So
I would not have been able to afford
yeah.
the like the business loan. Like I wouldn't have been financially in a position to take that on had we not done those things in advance. But we had no idea that was coming that soon. Because I had a conversation with the previous owner, and I said, when are you looking to take a step out? He said 5 to 10 years. This was
Mhm.
year 4. So I'm like, like I wasn't really even thinking about that. And then he just comes to me. So anyway, it all worked out, God's timing. And it was just incredible. But I just love the idea of paying off debt. Since then, we moved into another house
Mhm.
because we were having a baby boy, our first. And now we're going to be downsizing again, going to an RV that my brother-in-law is renovating. But I love this stuff because the freedom that you have, to your point, paying, being able to get rid of
Mhm.
stuff that weighs you down. Talk to
Mhm.
me a little bit about, how that's been able to kind of free you up now. Like, what are some things that maybe you're able to do now that you weren't able to do before? Like, whether it's just, business or just in life in general.
So I'm fascinated by your story. I want to hear so much more. Like I have all these questions. I'm going to save them so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
The biggest thing for me is actually emotionally being okay with not having stuff. Like, when I used to go to dinner parties and things like that and be captivated by, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I need this, I'd want it and buy it. And now I don't have that at all. And everything I buy, honestly, everything I buy from like wine to, our exercise stuff, I ask myself, like, do I really need this or should I be outside running? Do I really want to enjoy this on my 40th birthday or can I wait till I'm 40 to see if I'll like something else? In terms of the business, and this is just, I'm so honest with everyone all the time. Yes, I have financially been making less money, but I've taken way less clients, which means I'm not working 24 hours a day and I'm not stressed out about the business. I'm not stressed about, oh my gosh, we need to hit this amount per month. We need to hire this person to achieve this goal. It's more coming from the heart. It's like, yeah, let's do this. And saying no to clients that you're like, I actually don't really know if I can serve you or want to serve you right now. So
It's so freeing to being in that position too.
it's really great. Like I feel like a human being again.
I love this. I love it. Megan. Listen, no, this, but honestly, like, think of the times that we're in right now and like, just the sheer struggle that people are facing, whether it's in their business, whether it's in their personal life. Like, I feel like stuff is like, it's never been more of a liability than it is now.
It's powerful. So just for anybody listening, so I did for the kids come back to their school zone in the city. Given the situation that the world was in, I wanted them to have their community and our groups and things like that. So we came back, but the beautiful thing is I'm renting and it doesn't feel like a high risk. It's like I'm renting, I can leave, I can go back to the tiny because I own it. So there is the freedom. Like you can live wherever you want. And another really cool thing is I rent the tiny out. So it's become a source of income, which has been like honestly, if you can get a tiny or an RV and rent it out, do it. Because there's a lot of people that I get messages all the time. Hey, can I rent your tiny? Can I stay there? Because I think people want that escape right now, and they
Mm-hmm.
want to experience. Can they do it? So, yeah, there's just so many pieces to the key word is freedom. Like
Mm.
the liability of stuff, like you said, it's like I don't have to look around at my stuff and think, oh my gosh, there's thousands of dollars in here that I could have right now. I don't do that. It's like I've got my record player and my iPad, and I'm like, sweet, let's do it. Let's do life.
I love it. I love it. I'm funny enough. I'm sitting in a Airbnb rental right now
Are
because
you?
yeah, we sold our home in November of last year,
Okay.
and we've been in this Airbnb for 4 months, and then our rig is going to be fully renovated and ready to move in on May 1. But I totally resonate with like this is the first time I've ever rented. I've never
Mhm.
rented up until now,
Me
and
neither.
I freaking love it because God willing, next year we want like November. I want to just be nomad
Yeah.
and like my wife's from Guatemala. I want to spend a month there. We want to just go and see the world, and so we're open, but the flexibility is insane. To your point.
Yeah. And I think for me at first, when I was like, oh, mother of pearl, like I have to rent, my ego caught me a few times.
I love it.
Right. Like it was like you're renting but I think that's an I don't want to say old school way of thinking, but I think that's an old belief system that's probably been in me and been in a lot of people from their parents. Because my parents have owned their home; they've been in the same house since I was born, which is
Mhm.
beautiful. But things are different now; they really are. Like I'm looking around my neighborhood right now, and like no home is less than $700,000. That's not
Oh,
what I desire right now. And it can change, but yeah, it's the ego that will catch you and like, are you sure you want to rent? But I don't have to fix my dishwasher. It's like that's pretty cool.
and it is, and you're 100% correct, Megan. Like I think about it like what's the biggest reason why people want to own real estate, and what aside from the ego or kind of this is just the lifestyle that I want. Like retirement is always a huge factor in why people want to do that.
Mhm.
But the thing that, and especially because you hit it on the nail, like what worked for our parents and their parents, and it's different. It's different now for us, and there's more
Mhm.
than one way to get to that goal. Real estate isn't the only thing that can get you to where you want to go. I'm actually more interested in investing in businesses than I am in real
Yeah,
estate.
I am obsessed with that. We're like, this is so perfect. Um, I do have the property in Golden, so there's the 40 acres, which as an entrepreneur, yeah, like I don't have a pension or a large pocket of like that goes into RSPs every month, and that's just being honest. But you do have to think about investments into your future, especially when you start having a family and when you're looking around. And I'm looking at my kids and I'm like, oh my gosh, my daughter's 10. Like,
Mm,
so that means in the next 10 years, things are going to require more money for things for her. But yeah, like thinking about your future, but not obsessing about, okay, there's only one train that can get me there. There's like, you can take an RV, you can take a tiny home.
that's right.
I am so
Absolutely.
I'm so excited for you, like to get your RV. Where are you? Like, what location are you going to plant it in?
So very, very interesting how this worked out. Because initially we wanted to do like a tiny home,
Yeah.
And we're on a bit of a timeline because it was like our um, Airbnb was like up in like end of April, and we got this idea in like November, but like didn't sell our house till like the like late November. So basically, timeline wise, we couldn't get the like the axle thing that you put the tiny home on. That
Yep.
wasn't going to be ready until like mid-February. And I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's not enough time
Yeah.
to build the whole thing. So anyway, we ended up just getting like an RV from a local RV dealer. I think it was like 16 grand. And
Mhm.
then we like with renovations and stuff, I think it's going to be somewhere around 35. And we have it in this park on the very outskirts of beautiful Coburg, Ontario.
Mhm.
And it's in like a camp that's close by. So they're just seasonal. And so they're open from May 1 until like November 1st. And we're going to be there for 6 months. And, we'll see what happens after that. Our plans are kind of like we want to spend like a month in Guatemala. We'd
Mhm.
be probably like Airbnb rental here in like December, January. And then we might do 2 months in Florida from February till like end of March. And then we got some friends in Dominican who we would like to stay with for a month in April, and then right back to the camp.
Wow, I love it. I love that it's like you have a plan, but it sounds like, well, if something changes, we can change it, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's the entrepreneur blood.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I say this often, like I am not a type A. I don't have like I really am scattered, but it's because of making a lot of mistakes, doing a lot of things, getting the tiny, then deciding to come back to the city. Like often people say to me, and I'm sure you'll get this too, it's like, oh, like, well, aren't you kind of embarrassed that you moved back? Or aren't you embarrassed that you don't have any things? It's like, embarrassing for who? like, like
Right?
who's embarrassed? But
Right? Like,
no, and your circle kind of changes too. And I love that about living a really, really compassionate life is you're always shifting circles of beautiful people who will have faith in your journey. And I love that. I love meeting new people and who align with where you're at, and they're pushing you further and they're making you be a better person, right?
I totally agree, Meg. And what I love about what you said too, it's like when you meet these people, like sometimes like you kind of just having the courage to step out and do something that's different than what the rest of the world is doing encourages somebody else. We have friends, a family of five. They very quickly after we told them what we were doing, sold their house and now have an RV parked in the back of their parents' property. They're going to be there all summer,
I
but
love
like
it.
that, like sharing, right? And the
Mhm.
synergy in that. So I absolutely love it. But I want to ask you this question about business. You're doing something different. You're changing the model a little bit around. I'm
Mhm.
very, very excited to hear about, about this and what's happening in your business right now. Certainly times have changed. We're in the middle of a
Yeah.
lockdown. What's going on in your business? Tell the folks here today, because I think it's going to bring value.
Yeah, and I hope that it does for anybody. Kind of, you can look at your situation and say it's okay to change. So for 5 years our business model was based on hosting live events, whether it was a workshop or an event in the States or wherever, and then attracting those people into a mastermind, right? And helping their businesses. We would take their brand photos, we would sometimes build their websites. So it would be a lot of events was the focus, and I loved it. But obviously, putting all your eggs into that basket, it's not very good. So we're shifting from a mastermind model to more of an agency where we can actually implement for people their marketing. So they get that hands-on experience. But I guess what's happened is I've worked with so many beautiful entrepreneurs. We've put marketing strategies together for them. We've told them, here's how to grow, and they don't do it. Right. And I value that because I know that we are always like on to the next thing. Right. but I want to really help these businesses take what they know they need to do and do it for them. So we've pivoted 100%, or what would the full circle be?
Yeah, 360 or
360, I guess. But I always think with 360, doesn't that mean that you're back to where you
Oh, maybe it's
started?
180. You might be right about that. Maybe it's 180.
Because I always say 360, and then I'm like, but that would mean that I would do like,
I'm the worst person to ask, Megan.
yeah, no,
That's
okay.
not confuses.
Yeah. So I'm really, really excited, which and then I'm also taking myself out of it more and more. So we're hiring a content creator, we're hiring an account manager, and then a salesperson. So I can step back.
Three.
Yeah, we're going to go for three, not right away. So strategically, I'm going to do it over the next 12 months.
Love it.
I've learned from my mistakes. You don't have to hire everyone at once. Managing people can be a little bit, if it's a full-time job. So I really want to onboard people in the next year and make sure that we have the right team to serve the businesses that we want to serve. But yeah, allowing me to maybe invest in some new businesses or to shift gears. I'm volunteering a lot more now, and I want to continue to do that. It doesn't feed my family, but I'm hoping that the volunteer work and hiring people aligns. But yeah, so it's pretty cool to be able to look at the business and say, okay, COVID, it doesn't really matter. This is an opportunity.
Oh my goodness. There's so much power in what you just said. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
We can, there's still opportunities, there's still things. And it speaks to, like, I'm huge on optimism.
Yeah.
It's like, like focusing on, what can I do instead of like what I can't do. And I believe, Megan, so deeply, creative people, you put us in a box, it's only going to make us more creative.
That's
how we're built.
Yeah.
We're built to make something out of nothing.
I love it.
So I love that. So I want to break this down here because there's so much value to unpack in what you just said, and I don't want to gloss over it because it matters, and I think it's really, really important for people to hear. Like you mentioned, like you were kind of doing the one thing before, and then at some point realized I need to expand. So not only can I offer more, but it opens up different lines of revenue. Talk to me a little bit about, that from your vantage point and kind of where that realization came in and what kind of worked its way out that way for you.
Yeah, so with the mastermind, which was beautiful, and I sometimes think maybe we'll do it again one day. It was one source of income with launches that had to happen. So a launch is like gearing up to sell a product, and it had to happen. And it's exhausting to have that business model, and you are also living a little bit in fear. What if this doesn't work? What if this one thing doesn't work and it's the only source of income I have? So going from that last February, March, I was like, okay, let's also put out a virtual event, which at the time was great because not everyone was doing them. Now it's like, oh my gosh, another Zoom event. I'm tired. So we did that, which was great, which was an audience builder because I kind of knew that if COVID was going to be around for a while, we needed to build our list so that when we have new products and services, we have people to buy them instead of like, oh crap, we have no one on our list. So now with the whole agency model, we can have a list of products and packages and offer them to people and say, do you need someone to come with their phone and snap pictures in your storefront? Or are you a realtor and you suck in front of the camera and you want someone to do like a little video of you? We can offer those different services and then add in the Airbnb property, the tiny home. I'm thinking about getting into subleasing some space on the land, but we'll have to kind of think about that. And then the other thing too, which I'm just going to say this before, affiliate marketing and influence marketing is not easy. I think there's like this whole thing that people can just post about a product and make $1 million. Um,
Facts.
yeah, but there's really great, like I use Airtable that helps pay for Airtable. I use Kajabi that brings money in. There's so many different things if you look, if you're like, oh, cool, there's actually a lot of different things that I could be doing right now. So yeah, just like fun, but less work now than it was. I mean, I'm about to get into it.
That's incredible, Megan. I truly, truly resonate with everything you just said. The thing that really kind of put it in perspective for me, my last trip to Guatemala, we went to a cooking class, and it was at this lady's house, in one of the towns there. And we went to her house, we went inside, and she was doing the cooking class. And then we saw like American students walking around the house, and she was renting out rooms to some of those students. Then I look over to my right, and there's like a bunch of like carpentry furniture and stuff like that. So her husband was like making furniture and building it
Yeah.
in the house. And then we go into the backyard, and there's like coffee growing in the back, and they like sell that in the market. So there's like literally like four income streams in that one household. And I was like, man, this is incredible. And I just remembered being in awe of like just seeing like how entrepreneurial these people were from their home.
From their
And
home.
it was incredible. And I was like, man, like I held on to that. I'm like, this is important. This is important. I'm gonna hold on to this because like I feel like it's never been more important to have like multiple streams. So like when you said that, like it truly resonated with me because I'm always thinking, I'm like, what can we add on as a service?
Mhm.
What can we grow? Because like having just one but having like the peace of mind to be able to rely on multiple. So if like one dries up, like when this started, I thought our advertising was gonna like dry up a little bit.
Mhm.
And there was something like the photography side, like that completely dried up. But there were other areas that were able to kind of carry us in that time. So I truly, truly love the concept of like multiple streams in one. And I really appreciate you sharing like that pivot and how it's worked out for you.
Yeah, it's been an adventure, and I, admit it has, like, the last 12 months has been difficult because the anticipation of not knowing um can make you stop for a few hours, right? But you can't stop forever. And I have that whole train analogy, like your train's going to get to the destination. It's okay to take a little bit of a pause and think and maybe feel what you're feeling because of the way the world's happening, but remember to be around people who are optimistic, right?
Mm.
Because like sometimes I get caught and I'm in these like conversations, even online, and I'm like, oh no, like I have to pull myself back, find my people that are going to remind me that like there's so much opportunity. And even if someone says, wow, you live on a cloud, like you're out, and I'm like, yeah, cool, but I love it.
It's right. It 100%. And by the way, like on the topic of optimism, like what an ironic thing to be talking about right now in the midst of
Mhm.
such chaos. Like literally getting the announcement yesterday about the state of emergency, lockdown before that. Like where's your head at with all of this? Where's your mind at when you think about life and business? And is it phasing you? Like what where are you
You
kind of
know,
at?
I appreciate you asking this question because I think it's something that people are sort of talking about, but maybe not talking about enough. Is I would say about one day a week, I have a pretty big day of looking around thinking, oh my goodness, right? And I'm okay with that one day. So I talked to my partner about that, and I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, and I volunteer with the women's shelter, so I kind of see some of the stuff that's happening in that area. And I live in Alberta, which is an oil and gas province. But you know what? After that day, I look around at my kids and I look around at the reduced stuff that I don't have. And I look at my clients and I'm like, this is pretty cool actually, because we get still feel love if we can give love, right? So that's
Mm.
kind of what, after that day, so I'll have a day and I'll be like, oh my gosh, everything's fallen apart. And I'm like, actually, everything's coming together. Like we're all going to be okay. And getting outside helps, I think. Reminding people, like, let's go for a bike ride with the kids. We skied in the winter, which was really nice. And
Wow.
it's just getting that vitamin D and stuff. So my mind definitely looks at some businesses and says, gosh, my heart hurts for you. Like, but just, you got to pray, you have to have faith. And those prayers are always answered. They really are. And I know some people might not want to hear that right now, but they really are.
I 1000% click with you on that. It's yeah, and you know what? Like I've gotten the phone calls like people on the other end crying because they're going into bankruptcy, crying because they don't know what they're going to do for the next 28 days or how many months that they have to look at being shut down and not being able to
Yeah.
operate. And in each one of those conversations, it's always been left as like this too shall pass. And again, to your point, it's not what people want to hear at certain times, because I know a lot of people are just fed up. But like, this too shall pass. And
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe that our best interest is always in mind,
Mm-hmm.
and that things will work out the way that they're supposed to. It's not always necessarily the way we think it will, which is a key thing to note. Back to your point about the entrepreneurial spirit,
Mm-hmm.
making plans but being open to the alternative, and whatever happens. But I think to your point again, we got to surround ourselves with people that are optimistic and can kind of see the sun through the forest, if you will. Because
Mm-hmm.
like you're not going to stay sane if you just kind of go into a dark hole, and a lot of people are there. I
Yeah.
mean, like, I'm hearing that they're not sharing like the suicide rate numbers for Stats Canada this year, and
Mm-hmm.
it just hurts my heart, because it's like there's a lot of stuff that isn't being talked about that is happening, and it's a detriment to the to us as humans right now. But yeah, we got to
Mm-hmm.
stick together. So I really appreciate the context that you've provided on that.
Yeah. I think, was it yesterday? This is the other thing. Who knows what day it is anymore? But yesterday or the day before, they made an announcement that, hey, we're going back into this one of the stages that makes a lot of the places close. And immediately my mind went to, oh my gosh, the next 48 hours is going to be so difficult for like phone calls and mental health and suicides. Like, that's where I was like, it's going to be difficult, because and they're not talking about it. You're right. Like, you don't hear about that. And at the end of these announcements, not that I can change this, but they really should have a phone number on there saying, like, if this makes you, think of these thoughts, please call this phone number. Just because, yeah, I was like, uh-oh,
That's super thoughtful, by the way. I think that's a tremendous idea.
we should
They
just
really
call.
should do that.
They should, because you're it's like, when you're a kid, and there's this whole psychology behind it. Any kind of big announcement as a child, so whether that's like, we're going to visit your grandparents, or we're moving to an RV, or we're moving to a tiny, will always stick and create this emotional response for somebody. So when you're listening to the news and you hear we're going into a lockdown, your emotional response, if you've been dealing with the same sort of trauma over and over and over again, you might not have the skills, that announcement, to cope with it. So anyways, not to go into it, like, to the psychology of humans, but it really would. It seems like to me, just do it. Put an emergency phone number on there, and give people the opportunity to call and to get the help, because they're sitting at home and they're grabbing whatever, like, what's it, substance, and panicking, and it's like, come on, let's just help people.
I totally agree with that, Megan. It's, it's so neat to kind of hear your story and hear, where you've come from and what you're doing now. Because I think that, like, storytelling is what will end up saving people's lives. Like, somebody hearing about how, what you overcome or what I've overcome or, whatever, but like it just pushes that conversation forward of like, it might seem bleak right
Yeah.
now for a lot of us. But there is hope, and that's what I'm dealing. I'm dealing hope. So last thing
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Uh, I was just going to say, like, although I'm very optimistic and a positive person, like I lost a lot of clients as well. And there were times, and there still are times where I'm like, if more businesses close, I serve businesses. So let's like, and that's the reality. So, there's a difference between being like positive where you don't see the reality, or hope, faith, and just knowing that, like you said, this too shall pass. So I just want to say that, because I think people sometimes listen to these shows and they're like, wow. And that's not really the point. The point is that every single person is experiencing this in a different way. And we really have to have empathy right now. And I'm not seeing a lot of that on the internet.
That's a tremendous point to make, Megan. And if I can be vulnerable and share it, I've shared this before, but like last month, around March, like I probably experienced the most anxiety, stress that I've ever experienced as a business owner. And I'm not very long into it, but it was certainly like a year of like, what do people look at cutting when advertising, right? Like, so we had clients canceling left and right. And I'm thinking like, oh my goodness, like there's a team of people that have families, and it's like, like, what are we going to do? So it was like, it was a process, and it didn't last a day. Like this lasted over weeks and months of me just day by day having to surrender what I couldn't control. Because there's nothing I could do about what was thrown at me. All I could control is how I choose to respond to that. And it took a minute for me to realize that, and for me to be at peace with that.
Yeah.
But when I did, oh my goodness, like now, I don't even, it doesn't even faze me if I look at the bank account and numbers are lower than I would like them to be. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
Yeah. So, it doesn't even faze me anymore like it did. Like, I used to like have sleepless nights and all the rest, but like now it's like I feel like I've come through something and I'm stronger because of it. And I have a little more stomach than maybe I did a year ago. And any thoughts or insight to that?
I'm listening to you, and it's like, yeah, it's like we were living this parallel life across the country, because I'm stronger now. And I know that I just can't say this enough. Like you just said, it always somehow works out. I don't know how, but it does. And yeah, like when you're getting phone calls and emails, I've got to cancel, I can't work with you anymore, I'm not sure. And then you're like looking around at your family, at your kids, and you're like, okay, this is going to be hard. But yeah, yeah, what I was going to say is, imagine if you would have stopped though last February, if you would have said, okay, we'll just stop doing everything. I'd be like, let's just shut it down.
Right.
Like, and I know that might sound selfish for someone who has a storefront and they had to shut down, but I'm talking about not posting, not showing up, not recording your podcast, like not talking to people. If you would have stopped last February, March, you would be rebuilding right now. And rebuilding a house, rebuilding anything is harder than taking a few steps back and taking some rough weeks and saying like, okay, I have faith. I know that there's going to be a path put in front of me that I can follow. I just need to be where I'm at in my season. So I think it's really important that you're sharing that, like, because I think you can be optimistic, but you also are a human being.
Very, very important distinction. And yeah, to your, and I appreciate you sharing as well, because I truly think that's, that's the meat and potatoes that really kind of shows like, hey, like we're not on here talking optimism, but like this hasn't affected us.
Yeah.
Like it certainly has, and I know it affects everybody differently. Megan, I'm
Mhm.
I'm super super just I just feel blessed that we've been able to have this conversation today. I really want people to know a little bit more about where they can find you, where they can get to know more about you. You have an incredible story to tell. I love what I see on your socials, and just the transparency about your journey, where you've been, where you're going. Where can people get to know more about you?
The best place is Instagram. So Hello Life Academy, and then that'll link you to our websites and resources and blogs. We also have the Tiny Rose Hip, but if you head to Hello Life Academy, it's all there. You can find it. I so appreciate like talking with you. It's the best way to wake up today.
I appreciate as well, like the energy. It's just infectious. So I really really appreciate you sharing your heart today, Megan. Like it's truly truly a privilege, and I truly wish you all the best. I wish nothing but success for you going forward. I know it's going to happen. I'm super excited to see the journey with the agency and building it out over the next 12 months. And yeah, we're going to keep in touch. This isn't the last
For sure.
conversation for sure.
For sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.